So for this session, I would like to invite Dr. Fairouz. Dr. Fairouz is an ocular oncologist with a very, very special interest in retinoblastoma, and she also has a lot of experience in intraarterial chemotherapy for retinoblastoma. I would like to invite Dr. Fairouz. And our speakers for this topic are Dr. Shyam Srinivasan. He is a consultant at Tata Memorial Hospital, and who will be talking for intraarterial chemotherapy, and Dr. Vinay, consultant at pediatric hemato-oncology at Manipal, Udupi. Welcome both of you. I'll hand over the mic to Dr. Fairouz. Dr. Fairouz, are you with us?
Hi everyone. Hi Dr. Vasudha, and thank you. Thank you for this invitation. I'm here.
So let's move on. I would like to invite Dr. Vinay to start off with his argument first.
Thank you, Vasudha. I'll start sharing my screen. At the outset, I would like to thank Rainbow Children's Hospital for inviting me for this talk. And I also want to witness that Fairouz is an expert in intraarterial chemotherapy, but I would be talking favoring enucleation. So I'll just start my talk. Is my screen shared?
Yes, it is, Vinay.
Yeah. Okay. So the topic for today, the thing is retinoblastoma current practice in Indian setting. So it's clear it is current practice in the Indian setting that we need to focus on. And I would be talking for enucleation as a local treatment in a subset of population as against intraarterial chemotherapy. So as a background, my first slide is about the burden of the disease. Retinoblastoma accounts to 4% of childhood cancers. But if we see major centers, heavy volume centers treating in India, retinoblastoma contributes to might be the third or fourth most common diagnosis. About 20 to 25% of the cohort of cases might be of retinoblastoma going to the regional cancer centers. The incidence worldwide is 5,000 new cases every year. In India alone, 1,600 to 1,800 cases are diagnosed every year. In a recent publication in JAMA 2020, India plus other low middle income countries contributed to 45% of retinoblastoma cases. So this is the burden that India is sharing for retinoblastoma. So how do we differ? Does India differ from the West? And do low and middle income countries is different? Especially with retinoblastoma, I would like to focus these aspects because these are very important when we look at long-term outcomes and the overall paradigm change that is happening for the survival. So the median age at presentation in low middle income countries is 30 months as against 15 months in the West. And the incidence is 28 cases per million as against 4.1 cases per million population in the West. It is usually the laterality is probably a little higher. Bilateral disease is 10% higher compared to the West. The most important thing I would like to focus here is the stage of the disease or the advanced presentation of the disease that happens. So about 50% of tumors that present in low middle income countries are locally advanced, and 18.9% of them were metastatic. This is against a number of just 1.5% advanced disease in the West. So 98.5% cases in the West is intraocular tumor as against low middle income country, which is facing 50% of them being advanced. Survival wise, 60 to 70% is the overall survival that most of the literature from India and from the middle income countries state. That's the maximum, as against 98 to 99% that the West is quoting. So important thing to understand here is retinoblastoma as a disease is different in the two settings. Low middle income country, it needs a lot more different way of approach as compared to the West. A word about the usual things. Retinoblastoma, it's eye tumor, so it comes from within the globe, so it can be intraocular or extraocular. Extraocular can be metastatic or non-metastatic. Non-metastatic means spread through the optic nerve or through the orbit. So 60% of cases are intraocular as against 40% of cases being extraocular in Indian setting. So what are the goals of management? Traditionally, it has been told and it has been pursued that primary goal always is survival of the child, and subsequently globe salvage and vision salvage is the important thing that as a step ladder approach that we go and look into retinoblastoma as each and every case. So as I told you in my previous slide, the survival has not reached as much as in the West. It is still 60 to 70%. So there is a lot of gap that the survival, the primary goal itself needs to attain, and subsequently globe salvage and vision salvage has to be done. It should be done synchronously, but the survival of the child is still not up to the mark in our country. So as for any solid tumor, focal or local treatment becomes extremely important. A single simple slide, the most common focal treatments that are used in local disease is ophthalmological treatments like cryotherapy, transpupillary thermotherapy, laser photocoagulation, intravitreal chemo, and brachytherapy. For local therapy, enucleation has been used for more than 3 to 4 decades, and there have been patients who have been alive just with enucleation or for about 3 to 4 decades. On the other hand, the new approach is intraarterial chemo. This is to attain the secondary goal or kind of primary goal to salvage the globe. So are we still there to salvage the globe even before us trying to meet the requirements for improving the survival? The backbone always has been systemic control. Nowadays, intraarterial chemotherapy in localized diseases are trying to avoid IV chemotherapy as well. So we'll see the pitfalls in the next slides. A very small, we all know that the retinoblastoma is classified as group A to group E disease. To simplify, group A disease means group A and B are restricted to retina. Group C, group D means there is locally infiltration into vitreous or subretinal fluid, and group E disease means it is a tumor that is occupying more than 50% of the globe. Most of the times vision is gone. A thing that I want to stress here in group E is most of the times the children present to us with neovascular glaucoma, opaque media, and with vitreous hemorrhage, subretinal space, fluid, and things like that. And there might be other high risk factors. So now the point of contemplation here is whether enucleation is good compared to intraarterial chemo and how we have to do, and we will see in how we need to do that. So enucleation is kind of a simple procedure being done for a long time. Is a simple surgical procedure where the entire globe is removed, an orbital implant is put, stitched, and an ocular prosthesis is put. Intraarterial chemo theoretically is an interventional procedure where femoral artery catheterization is done with and a microsheath is inserted, and ocular ophthalmic artery is hooked, and chemotherapy is given. So this is the simple way of telling intraarterial chemotherapy. So what are the differences? So enucleation, it is a simple surgical procedure. I don't say it is simple. It is a surgical procedure done quite the expertise is good. On the other hand, intraarterial chemo needs a lot of expertise. The equipment required are the routine ophthalmological surgical instruments for enucleation as compared to intraarterial chemo, which requires an arterial sheath, microcatheter, anticoagulation, and C-arm. Then expertise to do, there is a long learning curve for the intraarterial chemo. So the experienced centers have been doing it, and there are not many centers in India that offer this treatment, and not many of the patients don't even have access to these centers. Enucleation is a single time procedure. As against intraarterial chemo, most of the literature that says needs at least multiple settings, at least 2 to 3, and some have gone up till 10 to 11. Patient age wise, I know literature says that intraarterial chemo can be done in less than 3 months as well, but it is definitely difficult in infants, and there are not many pediatric intervention radiologists, and there are not many pediatric neurointervention radiologists. So there's a long learning curve for doing such interventional procedures in an infant as compared to enucleation, which can be done. Anesthesia wise, both require general anesthesia, but intraarterial chemo needs admission. Probably enucleation can be done on daycare procedures in high volume centers with a lot of ophthalmological expertise. Post-op monitoring is required in both, although less intense with enucleation. The most important thing is the expense for the surgery is about 2,500 to 10,000, depending upon what setting he is. Might go up till 20-30,000 in private hospitals. But each setting of an intraarterial chemo takes, the amount is about 60,000 to 2.5 lakhs, which will be cumulatively adding every 2 to 3 sessions. It might go up 5 to 7.5 lakhs. Follow-up for compliance, if the disease has been eradicated by enucleation, the compliance is not very essential, although we have to follow and screen them for the other eye and all. But here in intraarterial chemo, the compliance needs to be very strict with the patients with very intense follow-up every 2 to 4 weekly. Do we have a treatment strategy based on the disease stage and group? So group A, group B, group C, these are localized tumors where focal therapy or local therapy is used. Here, enucleation is never a treatment modality. Globe is always salvaged. So the point of contemplation of this debate is not at all in these groups. Enucleation is never done in these groups. Always chemotherapy is IV chemotherapy. Most of the centers now follow IV chemotherapy followed by focal therapy. Few centers have started using intraarterial chemo, depending upon the accessibility and affordability that can be offered. But this is not at all a contemplating subset for enucleation. I will come to group D and E later. the group extraocular disease or advanced disease always requires systemic chemotherapy, enucleation plus EBM plus radiotherapy, plus or minus radiotherapy. So the extraocular disease or advanced disease is also not a contemplating concept in this debate. Enucleation is always required. So we are left with group D and group E. It is always a gray zone in group E and group D. So is there a universal consensus regarding what modality to be chosen, what to do? Even in the West, there is no consensus. And in India, it is still a new procedure. Lot of learning curve is still long. So we should not adopt a protocol that is followed in the West, and we need to adapt to our setting, the treatment center. And here is my debate on enucleation, which will win over intra-arterial chemo. So I would like to quote some literature from the major series published from India. So these are the three centers, PJ Chandigarh, AIIMS and LV Prasad, very nicely highlighted in this article. The number of patients they see is quite high, close like more than 500, 600, 1400 by LV Prasad. So first thing that I need to focus is on the number of people coming from rural background. It is 53.5% in the study. Sorry, it's not from PJ study, it's from AIIMS, and 13% of them were below poverty line. So always it is retinoblastoma in many papers, as well as in all conferences, it is always told a poor man's disease. There is always a delay in diagnosis in most of the patients that come to our centers. And the treatment delay was seen to an extent of 8.3 months in Chandigarh cohort and AIIMS cohort up to a range of 120 months. And as I already told, extraocular orbital disease was seen to a tune of 1/4 to 1/3 patients. And that is not at all a point to contemplate now. Enucleation has to be done. Group E, advanced group D and group E accounted to 50 to 75% in these patients. And that is the thing that we need to address. Treatment refusal is a big void that we have, and about 10 to 25% of the patients default as per the literature. So how does Indian scenario differ, and where do we differ? So delayed presentation, it's very evident. Advanced disease in 50% of the patients. Treatment abandonment, 20 to 40% as per published literature. In the last decade, it might have come down, but still the financial burden, high out-of-pocket expenses, travel problems, as well as insurance coverage, all these may change over to abandonment. COVID has added to the pain. And poor access to specialized centers. More than 30% of them actually reach the hospital after 6 months of initial symptom onset. And by that time, advancement of disease would have happened. And lack of specialized centers. Most regional cancer centers do not have an in-house interventional radiologist who can do a procedure in-house. So the patient has to go from one hospital to another to the other. And this has been shown in literature that it can decrease the compliance. A nice study done from AIIMS where 870 patient visits were actually analyzed, and they saw whether missed appointments were, what was the reason for missed appointments. It's again from AIIMS. The mean delay here was 13.75 days. The reasons quoted were 35% of patients were coming from more than 500 kilometers. Illness in the family was there in 52% of the cases. Financial constraints in close to 30%. And there was no adult to accompany the child in 10% of the cases. So this is the state that we are currently in. So this is a recent publication, I'm not telling a decade ago, it's about 2019 or 18, and it has been done prospectively looked at. So even the delay is not much, you might feel, but if we are doing an intra-arterial chemo, even a 2-week delay might actually worsen outcomes. To add on more, a recent publication in JAMA Oncology 2020, where the Global Retinoblastoma Group has addressed this issue based on the national income level. So where 85% of patients came from low middle income countries, 49% had advanced disease, and average of 15-month delay in the diagnosis. And not to add more, AIIMS again published saying socio-economic and cultural factors contributed to poor outcomes in retinoblastoma. So large disparity in disease is there in high and middle income countries. So retinoblastoma, I would quote, is a social disease and not just an oncological diagnosis. So coming back to our treatment protocol. So as I told you, group ABC, focal therapy, no enucleation, always try to salvage the globe. So not a contemplating thing for this debate. Extraocular tumor, enucleation has to be done, and group D, group E is the thing. So in low middle income country, including India, treatment algorithm and disease classification will not end at clinical diagnosis. We cannot just go by group A, B, C, D, E. We have to add social, cultural, financial classification and stratify them into treatment risk groups. Because at group D or group E, if treatment options might differ based on the social, cultural, and financial status of the patient. So let us come to group E. There is something called clinical risk factors, which is not much elaborated in many of the literature, but a group E can have clinically, we can see risk factors like neovascular glaucoma, vitreous hemorrhage, ophthalmos, a Thysic globe where blood supply is not good, hyphema, and preseptal orbital cellitis. In these cases, upfront and only intra-arterial chemo will not help, and it is contraindicated. It has to be supplemented with systemic IV chemo, and probably intra-arterial can be tried. But again, at what cost? The financial cost and economic murder of the family. Coming to enucleated group E eyes, if a histopathological risk factor is found, it is proven well beyond doubt from 30 years that if there are high risk factors, always systemic chemotherapy is required to prevent distant metastasis. And that has shown there is a wide range in survival if the histopathological risk factors are present and it is given with chemotherapy is given. So generalized approach with intra-articular chemotherapy threatens cure in group E disease. In Indian setting, always first chance is the best chance. Enucleation definitely eradicates local disease. IAC only approach should be taken with caution. Coming to group D disease, globe salvage with cure is the norm for any group D disease. Always the ophthalmologist as well as the oncologist will be wanting to salvage the globe. So with these things, intra-arterial chemo has nowadays come up and has become the first line approach in high income countries. But when we come down to Indian perspective, large published series have shown IV chemotherapy with focal therapy being used in 90% of such patients, and globe salvage up to a range of 50 to 60%. I know Sham will tell that globe salvage will be increased by another 20%, but I'll come to that slide next. And survival advantage is close to 95% even with this treatment. And basically intra-arterial chemo is not on site. So offering intra-arterial chemo upfront might not be a possibility, except in few expert centers, including Tata. Intra-arterial chemo, lack of in-house facilities and financial burden will curtail the use. There have been small series that are published, which are mostly retrospective with short follow-up, and there is a need for robust data to suggest that the globe salvage as well as the outcome is superior as when we try this in our setting as against enucleation. So in group D disease, I would vote for intra-arterial chemo should be selective and ensure 4A to succeed. That is, the patient should be affordable, there should be accessible, the accessibility should be there, then acceptability should be there, and the services should be available. So these four has to be ensured before putting a group D disease into intra-arterial arm. So this is the SIOP-PODC recommendation for treatment based on the income settings and as well as the categorizing retinoblastoma treatment settings in developing countries. This is published from 2014, although 7 years ago, but still it holds good for Indian setting, where we can see that low middle income country means setting 2, and upper middle income setting is the one where intra-arterial chemotherapy is there and that can be utilized. So currently, although there are few centers that are having the expertise to do, the patient profile as well as the follow-up and compliance and all these things matter when we decide on intra-arterial chemo for a child, and labeling a child and pushing onto that arm might provide harm rather than cure. So coming to this extremely nice review article by Dr. Fairoz, very elaboratively written about intra-arterial chemotherapy. I know Sham will be putting this one and quoting the numbers. I would like to just focus on one table on this. As I told you, group A, B, and C is not a point of contemplation. You can see numbers telling 100% globe salvage in that. I'm not even talking of enucleation in that. Group D and group E. We can see that in group D, there are few papers which have produced, few publications which have shown 100% globe salvage, but there are it has been as low as 50% as well and 70%, and this is at a cost that you are leaving the disease inside, not ensuring that it has been eradicated, and probably if the follow-up is not done, they might come back metastatic and it might lead to death of the child. Group E disease, the intra-arterial chemo effect can be as low as 9% to 60%. I know it will evolve, but we are currently speaking of the current status of India and whether we can implement this upfront. So all these studies have been from high income countries. Early presentation is a norm there. Facilities for interventional radiology is there. Financial insurance is there. Average of 3 cycles are used in all these things. Group D and E need very close follow-up, which they can do. Conversion to enucleation is mostly not spoken not elaborated because of lack of long-term follow-up in these studies. So as a letter to editor from PGI, it has been written that about 12 patients were seen who got intra-arterial chemo in PGI. And it was seen that 4 of them actually progressed with new lesions and 2 had to be enucleated. And you can see here the number of drug IAC cycles that were given were 1 to 2. So this speaks the poor profile of the patient and they cannot afford beyond 2 cycles. So although there is a extremely good experience in retinoblastoma, the literature doesn't address this arising of new lesions. It has to be studied more systematically. So intraarterial chemo versus systemic chemo, I know Shyam will be telling that you will avoid all the side effects of systemic chemo, but lack of systemic control of the disease might result in metastasis in intraarterial chemo group, and it has been shown that metastasis can happen in 2 to 5%. In the largest study of Suzuki, it was shown about 4% metastasis, and almost 2/3 of them died. Bilateral disease, IVC, intravenous chemo is the preferred modality. Sometimes intraarterial chemo can be done tandem, but when you have two eye which are diseased and you do an intervention procedure, and if the expertise is not good, if the child goes for blindness of the both eye, it might be counterproductive. The local complications like optic atrophy, CRAO, vitreous hemorrhage, retinal detachment, seizure, stroke, and TIA might not be very high in number, might not be reaching 10%. But if it happens, it is severe and vision threatening. Shyam will tell about enucleation and apprehension for that, and poor and disfigurement. So there have been.
Dr. Vinay, sorry to interrupt.
Another 2 slides. Yeah. So the cosmesis can be maintained as well. This photo can show that the artificial eye can look as similar as the normal eye. So the practice across country, I just tried to get some verbal communication with few of my colleagues. This is the high volume centers that treat. So AIIMS, PGI, Tata, Kidwai, LV Prasad, and corporates or private hospitals. The in-house facility for intraarterial chemo is there in few of them, but not there in all of them. Usual practice for group E disease is mostly to go for enucleation. Approximate number of group D and E referred for EAC is close to 10 to 20%. That's it right now. And the cost for each cycle varies from 50,000 to 2.5 lakhs. So cumulatively, the cost is too much. The ease of administration of IV intravenous is there for all. So are we there yet? There are important players in the game. Poor referral pathway, poor profile of the patient, alternate systems in the medicine, COVID-19 causing a problem, and we are in the mid economic arrest. India is actually growing. However, we are in that phase where we cannot have capacity buildings happening over in seconds, and we need to work on the other things that are more important to improve the survival. So not to miss the elephant in the hall. So my last slide is, in LMIC, we need to adapt rather than adopt the protocol. Intraarterial chemo is very attractive, but should be given only for selective cases. Bitter truth is that financial and social side effects overrule in this disease. Capacity building with self-sustaining and self-reliant is the first step, infrastructure building. Enucleation is always stands the test of time, and in selected patients, it always wins. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vinay. That was really elaborate. So maybe we can hear from Dr. Shyam what he thinks about IAC. Vasudha, you're there?